So could one argue that there's a corruption culture in the German heavy industry? Do the Germans have no scruples about bribing foreign officials?
No, this has been a long tradition in Germany. You must remember that until 1999, it was not only legal to bribe foreign government employees, it was even subsidized in that companies, German companies, could deduct the bribes from the taxes. This went on until 2003 if you were bribing an employee of a foreign company. And finally in 2003 the laws changed. The culture didn't. So what the Germans did is they just adapted to using illegal means, as we've seen in Greece, to bribe people. But they were still deducting it from their taxes because they were camouflaging this as expenses in a foreign country, and that's what eventually got them into trouble here, but they will have no difficulties in Greece.
So if you say the culture didn't change, how much did the German government knew about that?
I assume the German government knows about everything that's going on, especially with regard to arms. You know, arms are something that the government regulates, the sale of arms, and they're in very close contact with the companies. They have a very intimate relationship with the companies. And so, of course, they know what's going on. And you don't need much fantasy to know if no one's told you. It's quite obvious.
Are there any concrete examples of arms deals, for instance, with Greece?
Well, I think there's a few incidents where you can say, look at this. It coincides. For example, in 2001, when Gerhard Schröder approved letting Greece join the euro, everyone knew Greece was not prepared at that point. But Schröder organized some large sales of arms to Greece, submarines and tanks. And these were companies from northern Germany, which is where Schröder comes from. Then we had it again in 2010, this first so-called bailout. The so-called bailout of Greece, but was a bailout of French and German banks. But that was in conjunction with purchase of more German submarines. And then we have it again in 2012, where Samaras was here in Berlin, in that building ahead of us. And he needed some financial breathing space from Ms. Merkel, which he approved. And on the next day, the case of Siemens was then settled extrajudicial. That means there was no appealing against it. And Siemens was let off the hook for a very minor payment to Greece, about 170 million euros. The Greek government is asking for 2 billion. So that's 8.5% of what the Greek government thought they should be receiving from Siemens.
So what about the German justice? How much did they know about all these scandals? Did they do cover-ups? What did they do?
We ought to be careful here not to generalize. I think there are a few public prosecutors in Germany who are working very hard to clear up what happened. There are a number who are not doing that. They're doing their best to cover this up. But the real problem are the courts, the judges. You have to realize German judges are appointed, they're political appointments. So they are members of the parties, especially the parties in government. And they're the ones who I feel are covering this up, are giving very lenient sentences. In fact, they aren't sentencing the people to prison any. They're all given suspended sentences. So yes, the German justice system is failing completely with regards to cases of bribery in Greece.
Some of the cases were actually exposed from US authorities, like with Daimler or Siemens, or more recently with VW. What does that mean? Is there a money war going on between the US and Germany?
No, not at all. There's a simple difference. The US has really gotten hard on corruption, and Germany isn't, especially when it's their own industry. The Germans are going to protect their managers, and these are the same managers who are making incredible contributions to the German political parties. This is the sort of bribery which has been made legal. You can you can give the parties, political parties, you can give them bribes, you can sponsor them, you can give them millions. It's all very legal. In Greece, you call it corruption. Here it's just called, good political contacts. And they protect these people, and they protect German industry. Germany is dependent upon exports. And you aren't going to get export contracts unless you're bribing people. The US does it as well, but the danger of being caught is much greater in the US, and there's really not one in Germany, unless maybe you're a Greek company or a Russian company, whoever is the current enemy of Germany.
We don't see much coverage of these scandals in the German press. How do you explain that? Is the German industry some sort of a holy cow for everyone in Germany?
Yes, German industry is a holy cow here, but this is also has a lot to do with racism. With regard to corruption, you always have two parties. You have those receiving the money, but you have those paying it. Neither one is better than the other. But in the eyes of the Germans, you have greedy, nefarious Greeks, just dying to steal German money, and then you have upstanding German managers who are creating or keeping jobs, well-paid jobs in Germany, so they're patriots, and the Greeks are just thieves. That's the difference. And this is a long tradition. No one talks about the fact that Mr. Schauble, the great Mr. Schauble, was caught accepting an envelope with 100,000 euros from an arms lobbyist, which damaged his career. But of course, Germans are willing to forgive this sort of corruption. It's something different if it's a German doing it than if it's a nefarious Greek.
So in Greece, some people went to jail for these scandals. Has anyone gone to prison here in Germany?
Not really. What happened is the important managers, they've received 2-year suspended sentences, which is nothing. There might be, as usual, there's always a scapegoat, someone lower down the hierarchy who might go to jail. This could happen, but none of the major managers will have any consequences with regard to their bribery of Greek government officials and employees.